The Cosmodrome, cold and comforting. The Loot Cave, infamous and ready for an inquisition. The Grasp of Avarice, a story following one fire team's greed ripping apart the fabric of the group. This dungeon begs the question, what was the reason for this cave in the Cosmodrome having this much loot in vanilla Destiny? What could possibly be buried past this small yet hollow cave? Why was this place hidden away from the community for so long? In today's video, we're falling into a full-on pirate adventure, one that completely celebrates Destiny. Much like the whole 30th anniversary pack itself, this dungeon is full of cool references, neat encounters, and of course, incredible loot. This is also the first dungeon Bungie has released since the season of Arrivals, all the way back in June of 2020. Many players have been hungry for a new dungeon for a while now, so let's see what it's all about. And let's meet the Grasp of Avarice.
Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too.
Bungie is hosting a gifted subscription bounty for one of the coolest emblems I have ever seen in Destiny. And you guys have a place so you can redeem it. Twitch.tv/EvanF1997 with the link in the description, or by searching my name and fulfilling the Twitch bounty, which is gifting 2 subscriptions to the channel. Thank you guys so much for the support. I figured if you guys wanted to get an emblem and you wanted to support me, this is a great way to do both. GamerSupps is doing a crazy Christmas sale as well, with a new flavor as an incentive if you guys want to go balls to the wall. If you want to stock up for the year, this is the best time. They're giving away a ton of merch and shakers, and of course, you get some great flavors. It's $35 for 100 servings or $35 for 120 caffeine-free servings. I wouldn't bring GamerSupps up ad-free if I didn't believe in this product and this company. So use code EVAN at checkout if you want to grab anything. Their Christmas sale is bananas. The Loot Cave, Destiny's most infamous community event, and one we have talked about in depth in a different video. The short version of that story is that this little cave was filled with loot, and players in vanilla Destiny who were hungry to chase exotics. Nowadays, exotics come far easier, being able to be bought off a wall and even through Twitch Prime. Back then, however, this was the best method. Players hoarded as much loot as possible. In the time after this loot cave was dried up and eventually patched by the Big B, an homage to it was placed with the remains of the bodies that you killed. And that was pretty much it. The loot cave was referenced in other games, and other loot caves tried to do it as well as the original, but none could really hold a candle to this one. In this dungeon, we are finding out why there was so much loot in this cave. Who knew if we just had Shatter Dive and just shattered over the ground, it would actually just erupt to a full-on dungeon. On day 1, the Grasp of Avarice, there was no race. There was no stakes for a race. No day 1 emblem, no belt, just the pride on Destiny players' backs. Players who wanted a really big challenge could also see that at release, there was a master difficulty of the dungeon available. The first master dungeon Bungie had ever made. Normally, the incentive for a master raid has been adept versions of exclusive weapons. But for the dungeon, the reward for master was armor with an extra slot for artifact mods separate from the normal slots. The armor uses the same energy total, something I hope will be fleshed out more in the future, but this is a step in the right direction for endgame loot incentive. The only other differences between the two modes is some champions and the overall difficulty of the encounters. I highly recommend Master Mode since it constantly keeps you on your toes and asks you to earn your keeps. Speaking of earning your keeps, the first encounter of the dungeon to even start it was picking up, exotic engrams. Shooting into the loot cave and seeing exotics all over the ground was the key to this encounter, if you'd even call it an encounter. And it started off the mechanic of this whole entire dungeon. A really neat fact about the engrams in this dungeon is that picking up 10 of them actually gives the player full abilities, including a full super. After raising this crystal in the back of the cave, players fell down into a crystal-filled cavern and stumbling into the first of many messages in a bottle.
Damn vandal outsmarted us. When we chased him into the loot cave, I was sure he'd lead us right to the source of the treasure. But this just looks like a regular cave. I haven't told the team we're lost, but Bismarck's getting suspicious. That ghost is too clever for his own good. Not ready to turn back, though. There's treasure here. There's got to be.
This dungeon follows the story of Wilhelm 7 and his fire team as they adventure down into the loot cave. Wilhelm 7 is an exo that is somehow related to Clovis Bray, I've been told, but I haven't found any proof and there's been no confirmation, so someone let me know in the comments if that's true. Wilhelm's fire team came down to this cave after hunting a very specific vandal, perhaps Randall? Wilhelm journeyed down here with his ghost Bismarck and his fire team of Pershing and Agadir to search for the Avarice treasure, a supposedly cursed treasure filled with all the best loot a Guardian could ever ask for. However, as the next audio log explains, their luck just wasn't striking.
It's day 4 and still nothing. No gold-plated engrams, no exotic drops. Just more Fallen and Hive with their stupid Mos Ultimas and scavenger suits. I heard Bismarck talking to Pershing and Agadir when they thought I was asleep. He wants us to turn back, but we can't. Not yet. The exotics are just around the next corner. I can smell them.
You can hear in Wilhelm's voice that he's getting paranoid, that his fire team may turn on him at any moment and try to take the treasure for themselves if given the chance. But he's hungry for exotics. Even being able to smell them? I have no clue what exotics would smell like. Maybe cheese? Once past the first 2 messages, players stumbled upon the first of many encounters in the dungeon. If there's one thing the Fallen have been known for in Destiny, it's traps. From the very first mission of the game to now in this dungeon, the Fallen have always set traps with trip mines and slow mines, but now they've jumped the shark a bit with lever traps, spike traps, pits, and some Donkey Kong rollers. There must be something very important the Fallen are protecting. This encounter on day 1 definitely shook up some players too, as it was a true guessing game on where to go and what to do, giving every single player trust issues.
Yeah, there's a bunch of arrows, door.
Everybody at Bungie is literally rolling in their chairs right now. Activate. Bungie! My God. I'll take one for the team, boys. There we go. Right door.
Lever.
I mean, that's a...
Okay. No! Okay.
Dude, that fucking spikes just came out that door. Hold on. Oh my!
Thank you for the 100 bones and... Doors would kill. Pressure plates would kill. Fans would push. And a message in a bottle hidden in a rafter detailed more of what happened here.
It's the end of day 6 and we did it. We found the source of the loot. Broke into a chamber and it's wall-to-wall engrams. Glimmer piled to the ceiling. Top-tier loot as far as the eye can see. We're gonna go as deep as we can. There must be even more ahead. We'll figure out how to split it all up later. Should be easy with so much of it.
Wilhelm, Pershing, and Agadir all found a source of the loot. A ton of engrams everywhere. Glimmer piled to the ceiling. all of the riches anyone could ever need. But yet for these three, this was only the first step. They had to get closer and closer to more and more loot. Even though their mission was complete, greed started to set in. In the next audio log, we hear this.
Day 10. We're deep in the cave system now, and each cavern's richer than the last. Deciding who gets what is tougher than I thought. Pershing shot Agadir over a mid-tier pulse rifle he already had. Agadir's ghost came out hollering, and Pershing damn near shot him too before I stepped in. There are more engrams here than a body could ever need, but nobody wants to part with their cut.
Pershing shot Agadir in greed over just a blue pulse rifle. Again, Pershing, you know you could just use your Twitch Prime for exotics, right? Anyways, the curse of avarice is clearly growing on these pirate guardians. Or maybe it's their own greed, as Pershing shoots Agadir and then almost even shoots Agadir's ghost before Wilhelm steps in to break him up. Later on, we discover another message in a bottle. It sounds...
It's day 14, and Pershing's dead. Permanently. Agadir went golden gun out of nowhere and shot his ghost. Pershing tried to throw up a barrier after. Didn't do him any good without his light. He died standing there like an idiot. Bismarck says we should go back to the surface, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna leave all this loot for those greedy cryptarchs. At least there's a silver lining. Pershing had some nice gear. It's mine now.
Agadir, in a rage of golden gun and paranoia, the likes of which all of them faced, kills Pershing and Pershing's ghost, permanently killing the Titan who tried to fight back. But without the light, the Titan had nothing to strike. One thing I want you to pay attention to as Wilhelm talks about these two is the lack of sympathy in his voice. He doesn't feel bad for Pershing or Agadir, even calling Pershing an idiot for dying and taking his armor for himself. Now back to the player point of view. After players made their way through the traps, they fought not the Fallen, but the Hive? Now the Hive have never been known for laying traps, but hell, they are known for coming in groups, and this encounter sees doors needing to be opened in a particular order, avoiding spike traps while opening up the hangar doors. Just watch out for that door at the end. The next room is relatively the same, with doors needing to be opened in a proper order to reach the goal, with one final trap from the Fallen.
Oh, there you go. You blew it up all the way. Okay, so blow it up.
It's like Scourge of the
Oh, God! Oh, God, trying to get out of the way!
Let's go.
You're up in
Fucking brains, dude. No!
We just got Donkey Konged, bro.
After getting rolled literally, players followed this empty room and passed a trap, where Wilhelm left another message.
Day 18. I got Agadir hauling the loot like a pack mule, using a sled I made out of old fallen armor. Problem is, the deeper we go, the better engrams I find. The sled's fit to burst, and Agadir's about to drop. I better be careful not to overwork him. He got much weaker after I killed his ghost.
Wilhelm has snapped completely, and now has Agadir working for him like a slave, killing Agadir's ghost and forcing Agadir to haul all of the loot on a sled made from fallen armor remains. As the players end on that note, a new one begins. This one, our first boss. Phry'zhia, I hope I said that right, the Insatiable, sounding like a Bloodborne boss and even having an entrance like one too on rare occasions. Phry'zhia has a rare chance to enter the arena like the Cleric Beast. Don't believe me? Here, have a look at the comparison. All right, time to see it.
Top ropes.
Yep, there he is. Ready? There he is. Oh, shit. Oh.
Jeez.
That's about all the similarity to Bloodborne here, as Phry'zhia definitely has an insatiable hunger for some engrams. The goal here was very simple. Use a Scorch Cannon to open up the sides, grabbing engrams and standing near the crystals at the front to begin damage. After that, it was just blast away and kill the boss. The most memorable parts of this boss are that it doesn't stomp you if you stand at the crystal, that it can throw fireballs at you, and that of course, it jumps from the top rope to say what's up to you sometimes. Outside of that, there's not really much going on here. Oh wait, the boss has a mustache. Okay, this is the best boss ever made. On Master Mode, there are champions that make this fight a bit more challenging, but I can see a very short future of this boss giving players trouble.
Nice. Awesome.
Free. One phase.
Go. Reload.
He's slamming me.
Easy dub. Easy. Let's go.
Shortly after this boss died, and inside of a rocket pod, Wilhelm left another message.
Day 22, and Agadir's gone. I caught him trying to steal from me. Take what's mine. I pushed him down a sinkhole, about 30 meters, and dropped a grenade down after him. It's quiet as a tomb now. Just me and all this loot. And Bismarck. He says we should leave. Says there's a curse. Says this place is changing me. But I know he wants to come back later with some cryptarchs and clean the place out. I'm not falling for his tricks.
Wilhelm has killed Agadir after enslaving him not long before, dropping a grenade on him, and now even becoming paranoid of his own ghost, thinking that his ghost would take all of the loot for himself. But this guy doesn't even know ghosts can't get loot. They don't even have hands or feet. Come on, pal. Anyways, on to an encounter that is a nice reference to times of old for Destiny. Sparrow Racing is back in Destiny, not as a whole game mode, but instead as a dungeon mechanic. Sharing the mechanic from Bungie's previous raids, Scourge of the Past, players had to blast past rooms of Fallen and avoid the giant flaming servitor behind them. This time, it wasn't about a servitor, it was about capturing zones under a very limited amount of time, with the optional mines in place for extending the timer instead of forgetting a chest like with Scourge. This encounter adds a lot of pressure for 3 players, but even more for the solo flawless challenge. Only one more trap to not hit first though.
Hold on.
Darkness area.
Frost, ready? 3,
2, 1, go.
Damn it!
Once through, the giant skull warning the player of the curse of avarice had the final capture point, and Wilhelm had another message close to it.
Day 30. Bismarck won't come out, so I've been holding engrams alone. I dropped one, chased it down a crack in the cave floor, right into another loot cave. Even richer than the first. Hey, Pershing, just pulled a god roll of the shotgun you wanted. You hear me? Where'd you get off to? Oh, to the victor go the spoils. And nobody's more spoiled than me.
I would say at this point, Wilhelm is fully consumed by the curse, if he wasn't already before talking to himself and, you know, enslaving somebody. Since not even his ghost wants to see him. But he did mention even more of a loot cave to follow after dropping an engram into a crack in the floor. And I'll be damned if this isn't one of the best aesthetics in the game. A crystal-filled cave. In a time before we made our way here, I imagined this place was filled with engrams, like a giant ball pit, but now only crystals fill it. and echoes of water dropping. You find another audio log atop one of these crystals.
Day 38. And I finally got rid of Bismarck. I knew he'd been planning something, so I laid a trap for him. I shot myself right in the meaty part of the leg. And when that little snoop compiled to see what the fuss was all about, bam! I put one right through his beady little iris. I probably should have let him fix my leg first. I'll be fine.
Wilhelm killed his own ghost out of paranoia by shooting himself in the leg and baiting his ghost to come out and heal him. You can imagine by day 38 of being in this cave and with the curse fully in effect, Wilhelm only talking to himself, it would drive anyone mad, especially someone as greedy as him. Players would soon stumble down into an encounter that feels like it belongs in a Zelda dungeon more than even Destiny. Fallen Shield is a truly unique encounter, but one I fear won't age too well, especially if you want to farm for the loot. Don't get me wrong, it's super fun launching servitors into a shield to bust it open, but sometimes it just feels tedious needing to do this 4 times. Good thing we have sword tech to speed it up, however. In this encounter, teams had to fuel the crystals to knock a servitor's shield off, then launch said servitors into a cannon to explode the shield. Players figured this one out relatively quickly, but I hope the bugs get patched out here quickly too, since as of right now, if a servitor falls off the map, it has a high chance to crash your game. You may also notice that there is no more hive in the dungeon, and now it's all fallen, something that feels like a nice step for Destiny. Transitioning enemy types as encounters progress. There's also 2 more messages here from Wilhelm. The first, inside this plain part.
Day 40. I forgot how much a body can bleed without a ghost to stop it. Don't matter though. Ain't nothing more loot can't fix. Just one more cave and a couple more exotics. And just a little further.
Wilhelm is slowly dying, and by slowly dying, I really mean he is falling apart. As in the next audio log, we find him not even able to put what day it is together anymore.
Day... can't count. My leg's burning. No time to stop. Almost to the center. All the loot in the galaxy. Right here. Just for me now. It's mine. It's all mine.
Players made their way up to the final challenge of the dungeon, and to see where Wilhelm was after all was said and done. Guys, Randall the Vandal wasn't the boss. Neither was shirtless and shredded Master Rahul. Neither was Wilhelm. But we sort of got Taniks. Captain Avarokk is a fallen pirate captain with the same banner as Taniks, meaning he has no house. Avarokk was a part of the fallen gang that Wilhelm chased down into the loot cave, and is the final boss of the dungeon. In this room of pods, engrams, and gold all over the place, we can imagine this is where Wilhelm's riches are located. And sitting here are 3 bosses: Avarokk, Grisbrax, voiced by Chris Pratt of course, and RM80, a Shank. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the Shank's name, I thought it said Rambo. Then one of my moderators on Twitch messaged me that this Shank is actually named R-Matey. I still think Rambo's a better name, because I got absolutely mowed down by this shank on day 1. But yeah, it's not Rambo, it's our matey. I know I'm not alone on this one either, so leave a comment if you also thought this shank was named Rambo. This encounter was fairly straightforward. Take out Rambo and Chris Pratt, then shoot down engrams to deposit them at the crystal for damage. The only thing I don't like in this room is that a little drop of water kills you. We've slain gods and yet we can't overcome a little splash on the pants. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Also, when you consider that you're up in a giant sky bubble and a little bit of water. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to try to make sense of it. Another really cool thing that I didn't actually notice my first time doing this is that there's actually 3 cannon spots to shoot. There's one on the left, one in the middle, and one on the right. I thought there was only 2. Once the crystal was raised and the boss was eventually killed.
There we go. There we go.
Master mode done, boys. Let's go. GG's.
And see you later. Wait. And see you later. There we go. The dungeon had been completed. The source of the gold was discovered. And Wilhelm, dead with all of his riches in a pod, had one final message.
What's that? I hear you sneaking around. You're here to take what's mine. Don't you touch nothing. It's all mine.
If it wasn't clear by now, Wilhelm left all of those traps, not the Fallen. And if it wasn't clear, Wilhelm is actually a straight up reference to One-Eyed Willy, even having one of his eyes covered in crystal and setting traps through the whole dungeon. A nice nod to the Goonies. Even nicer, the Gjallarhorn quest began from the ending of the dungeon. We will save Gjallarhorn for another video, but it's more insane than it ever was in Destiny 1, and for the catalyst, the dungeon had players fighting Randall the Vandal 3 times. Another great reference. The final reference I can really think of for this room is that it has the same look as the Cade Stash mission. Cade Stash, Wilhelm's Horde, has a nice ring to it. This time, there's no Master Chief reference though. That is the Grasp of Avarice dungeon though. Another uniquely distinct dungeon from the rest, and the 4th one to make its way to the game. I don't think this dungeon is going to be my favorite dungeon to play outside of the loot. I really respect Bungie for doing something different and incorporating both Hive and Fallen into a dungeon to pay homage to the loot cave by having both enemy types is really awesome. I think on Master, this dungeon serves to be a great challenge and very rewarding. But in general, the bosses feel a bit too repetitive, and the main mechanic being a bit better version of collecting motes from Gambit is disappointing. But I do like how you get super from picking up the engrams. I know why they added the mechanic of picking up engrams like they're motes. I mean, you're collecting engrams from the loot cave and that's awesome, but I guess I wanted Bungie to be a bit more ambitious on this one instead of just depositing motes again. Anyways, you're not here for my in-depth talk about games and feeling towards pieces of great content and how well they're aged, whatever. You're here for the loot talk. So let's get on with it, Mr. YouTuber Chop Chop! This is the first time in Destiny history that a dungeon has had its own full armor set and weapon pool, without an update prophecy. Of course, if you bring the classic Destiny 1 weapons, you're always going to have a win-win. And I've been hearing a lot of complaining that bringing back Destiny 1 weapons is annoying. But this is literally a dungeon and a DLC celebrating 30 years of Bungie. So like, I don't know what you thought you were going to get. Are these weapons as good as they were in Destiny 1 though, or are they better? The answer is yes and no. I as Luna can get some pretty nutty rolls and will definitely dominate, but it's never going to be the number 1 in every department again, especially when we have other options and now even a Halo Magnum to put in its place. It's still a Slayer, don't get me wrong, but it's had its day. As far as Matador goes, it can still get some really good perks, but without something like Quick Draw or Surplus, you kinda have to fly at someone with it. It doesn't have that shot package rangefinder like how it had in vanilla Destiny 1. It can still get perks to make it insane, just like Ice Luna, but it's not a defensive shotgun anymore. The most surprising piece of loot from this dungeon was a brand new drop, the Hero of Ages sword, which is actually the sword from Bungie's game Myth. I like that this thing is a vortex sword like Guillotine and can even drop chain reaction to explode enemies. Very cool. 1,000-yard stare can even get quick draw and snapshot to bring it back to those beloved days from the Season of Opulence. Oh, and there's this amazing Thorn armor set with exclusive champion mod slots for beating it on Master. So that's cool. Overall, the dungeon provides a great loot experience while encapsulating everything people like in Destiny. There's story, there's sparrows, there's loot, there's lore, there's bosses, and there's a lot of traps to mess with new players. It's everything we like in one piece, and I can't say much bad about it. It's just a great time. I think as time progresses, the most fun I will see is players messing around with speedrunning with the new swords. If you haven't seen what players are capable of, just have a look. Oh, and Bungie confirmed that this sword tech is intentional. Let's go. With all of that out of the way, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we have a lot of videos to pump out this month, so make sure you're staying tuned to the channel, enjoying the bloopers, and subscribing to the channel. I will see you guys soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.
Hot.
What? Yo! Yo!
What? What the? Oh.
I just got rolled!